Hey, how you doing tonight? What can I get started for you?
Yeah, I'm doing good tonight. Another busy day at the ballpark. Now I need something really, really good. You got something really good for me there?
Of course I do. I have exactly what you need. Jack and Cano coming right up.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to. We want to welcome everybody back. It has been a while. It has been a pretty long while, but we are back. I am Roberto, and that is Jack. Together we call this Jack and Cano. Jack, what you been up to, bud?
Watching the Lightning head to the finals. That's the first thing I
Uh,
had to say because it's exciting to be back in the Stanley Cup. So, with the Rays playing well, and the Bucks just winning the Super Bowl, it's Tampa Bay here, and I know our guest is going to have something to say about that for next year. But no, I've been, we went on vacation, went to the beach, just kind of took some time off and kind of getting back in the swing of things.
there you
How
go.
about you?
No, that's you're working, man. For me, work has never stopped. It's been busy, the work that I do, but with the summer coming up, the good times are coming. And just yesterday, for example, I had my kid's birthday party. I have a couple kids that are 10 days apart, so one birthday party a year. Hey, winner, winner.
Nice.
So we had that going on. Good weather, good summer birthday for the kids. So enjoying life, man. Getting back to normal. The SGAs are back. There's a bobblehead almost every single day in the minors and the majors. There's always something going on. So definitely nice to start seeing these shelves fill up a little bit, correct?
Yeah, and the Giants are came out of nowhere, and somehow they're like what, the best team in baseball right now.
Yeah, they lost today. They lost
Uh,
today, but so far they've been doing pretty good. They got a nice, solid team. Kapler is doing a phenomenal job. They're believing in each other, so it's nice to see the home team doing pretty good. Let's see what happens in the playoffs, though. You still got to get past the Dodgers and obviously the Padres
oh
in the
man,
National League.
it's getting very interesting for sure. A lot of good teams out there.
All right, so yeah, guys. So we've been away for a while. We know that this is going to be a good show, and thank you guys for tuning in. We do have a very special guest, and we're going to talk to him, and he's going to give us some wonderful, wonderful information on his personal collections, on how he got started, and he's going to touch on something that we're going to talk about, which is the chase of that last piece. We all have that. We all have a list, and there's always one missing from either a big set, a subset, and we know that he's missing one big piece, and we're going to talk about what that chase is like. But first off, we're going to talk about something very, very important that everyone should be jumping on, and that is the latest thing that we have going on the page, and that is Loco 5K, right, Jack?
That's right. So we got a package deal for everybody to jump in on the page. You're gonna get a Loco 5K bobblehead, which is most important, right? So we'll talk about that in a second. But the rest of the package, you got a little string backpack you can use to throw your stuff in when you're running, go to the gym, whatever. You got a matching cooling towel, a towel that was made to keep you cool, and you could use that for anything when you're running. Yeah, on the 5K, you could use it when you're mowing the yard. Those things are awesome if you have never used a cooling towel before. And then the last thing is the Loco medal, which everyone that runs 5Ks, walks 5Ks. I mean, even if you've done a mile walk or anything for charity, you want that medal at the end, right? Hang that up with all your medals and display that. And we got a pretty cool medal. So
Yeah, definitely not a regular race medal or even any type of competition medal. This one was very carefully thought of, and it had to be very unique, and it had to be something that everyone likes. And we got to let them know too, Jack, that the bobblehead is actually a runner. And what I like about this one is the racing finish line tape that every
yeah,
bobblehead is going to have. Because if you take a look at other racing bobbleheads that have been put out there, I know the Giants have about seven of them. They only have two with the actual string, not the string, but the finish line. But it's the actual
like a
material.
ribbon.
That the ribbon, correct? The,
Yeah,
the finish line ribbon, but it's actual craft ribbon that they put on there.
right.
Uh, and the one that Loco is going to have, it's not the case. It's actual going to be the same material as the bobblehead, So it is not going to be flimsy. It is not going to come apart. It's going to be part of the bobblehead, which is something that no other running bobblehead in any other in either major leagues or minor league giveaways or events or stuff put together like this by teams, it hasn't been done. So this is definitely something that everyone that gets one is going to be glad that they have it in their collection.
Yeah, I think so. It's not a full size, but it's a little bigger than a mini, because they needed to make it big enough to show the detail. Everything is kind of molded in there. You don't really have like a bunch of decals on there, which was important to us. And it's Success did a great job with it. I think everyone's going to love it. The first running skull, I think, as far as I've seen, I don't think I've ever seen a skull
I
running.
don't think I've ever seen one. No, you're right. And you mentioned the size, and at 5.5 inches ballpark is what it is.
Yeah.
For New York Yankee collectors is going to be perfect. And that's not me throwing a jab. It's just going to look right with every other Yankee bobblehead that they have.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you mentioned the towel earlier too. We got to take a look at the towel, Jack, and it is not just a regular size towel. This thing is pretty big. It's pretty wide. And like you said, it's a cooling towel, which is different than a regular one.
Yeah, the cooling towel, you just get, if you've used one, you probably know, but you just get some water on there, kind of snap it around a little bit, and it'll keep you cool for a couple hours. You want to recharge it, you just throw some more water on it and kind of repeat, kind of just brings your temperature down when you're outside and it's hot. But yeah, and then as far as the metal goes, that an homage to a local race here, Gasparilla. If you've ever heard of Gasparilla, it's the big pirate themed kind of Mardi Gras they have here in Tampa. They do a 5K, which actually do a bunch of races, 5K, half marathon, bunch of challenges, etc. And they have these really cool like skull and crossbone medals that had like a swinging jaw on it. And so we got to thinking about that, like, that'd be kind of cool if Loco had a swinging jaw, because it's can't really make a bobblehead on a on a metal, but it's about as close as we could get. So I think it's different, and I think people will enjoy it.
And it looks just like Loco, obviously. And you mentioned the jawline. It's just perfect. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece to have. All right. So that's what we have going on. And that's, like I said, that's something that everyone should be able to have once they come out. You got to have it. Let's get to our special guest. This man right here, I've had a good relationship with him for how long are we talking about, Cory? We've talked for about 2-3 years.
I'd say probably 2.5, 3 years easily.
Yeah, definitely. Cory Mickelson. He is a huge, huge Kansas City collector. And we're talking about Royals. We're talking about Kansas City Chiefs. And with the success that the Royals had winning the World Series, not too long ago, and obviously Mahomes running around, football fields, beating everybody, getting to the Super Bowl the last 2 years. Kansas City is a pretty good sports town right now. Cory, what's it like? What's the city feel like?
I actually moved to Pennsylvania from Kansas City 3 years ago. So it's been a little bit of a challenge to be out here. I did manage to, not last year, but the year before, fly back to Kansas City so I could be there to watch the Super Bowl against the Niners, and ended up extending my stay a couple days to go to the parade. It was about 4 degrees that day, completely miserable, standing outside for hours upon hours, waiting for the buses to drive by. I'll be honest, I was a little jealous. The Tampa parade this year looked a little bit warmer, much nicer weather, but wouldn't trade it for the world. But the excitement's there. Royals, they teased us a little in April, jumped out to the best record in baseball, and then remembered they were the Royals, and now they're last in the division. So when you're a small market club, you got to take your beating every 4 or 5 years. But we've got a stellar crop of pitchers from that 2018 draft class that should be. I've said all along 2022, 2023 might be the rebuild. It's setting up to be just like the 2014 team. So I hope that I hope they can get back. But again, in the meantime, we got the Chiefs. So
how do you guys feel, or how do you feel? How does the fan base feel about Mike Matheny? Because I like the dude.
So I'm one of the rare Kansas City fans that's also a Cardinals fan. I know that's a sin for most people, but I had family as a kid in St. Louis, so I went to a lot of Cardinals games, and back then it was never an issue. And then all of a sudden, 1985 rolls around, and I'm like, shit, who do I root for? Cardinals, Royals,
Yeah.
and I was kind of torn there. But then it wasn't a big issue again until whenever they started the interleague, and I'm like, here we are again. I'm in this dilemma. So I just decided I'm rooting for the home team when they play each other. And back when I was living there, we at least tried to get across state to go to one of the games each year. But I'm a big Matheny fan. I liked him when he was in St. Louis. I was not a Ned Yost fan, and if you look back through my past Facebook post history, you will see a lot of comments of wanting Yost out of there. I just didn't think he managed the bullpen very well. But in Matheny's case, it's hard to manage a bullpen when they're all pretty crappy. So I don't know why we have Greg Holland and Wade Davis and Irvin Santana still on our squad right now. It's like they're trying to relive that 2015 glory season. But I mean, I don't know how many games they've blown, but it's pretty frustrating, at least on my end.
I know that the Giants did the same thing too, Jack, after those 3 championships earlier in the decade. They held on to all these players. They held on to Hunter Pence. They held on to Matt Cain. They held on to a good number of them to this day. They're still holding on to Buster Posey, Brandon Belt, and Crawford, although their contracts are kind of like, not on the more favorable side. But that's because they're holding on to those glory days.
Yeah.
You put those uniforms out there on the field, fans are going to buy them. They're going to buy the jerseys. So that I would say that's part of it. Now, what happens when you walk down the street, when you go back home and visit family, and you have your Cardinals jersey on? Someone gives you shit?
I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't do that. Now, when
Smart man.
I come through St. Louis and I visit, we'll throw the Cardinals red on. But I stick to the home team. I don't wear Cardinals anywhere. Now, I'm also a St. Louis Blues fan because obviously Kansas City doesn't have hockey, but it's not one of those cities that they get too upset when they see other, because they've had such bad baseball for so long. It's not now, if I were to be I've got a buddy who's a Raiders fan. I mean, he can't walk down the street in his Raiders gear in Kansas City without, getting jabs taken at him. But it's all pretty friendly. I mean, every city has their bad people that, will take some pretty bad jabs, but, and I've gone to many away games as a Chiefs fan, and I don't have any issues wearing the colors anywhere. I'm a little curious how it's going to go in Philly this year. I've heard bad things about the Eagles fans and how they treat the opposing fans, but we'll see. It may be a very discreet Chiefs shirt with a little logo on it, and it may be black, and not red. I don't know. So
You just got to go. I heard like you can buy a Carson Wentz like elite jersey, like a $300 jersey for like $10 at Dick's right now. So you just get one of those and throw it over your Chiefs jersey till you get to your seat, and then you can take it
get
off.
inside. Yeah, I mean, Mahomes' first year was the year I just moved out here, and we went across to Pittsburgh. In that game where he lit them up, in the first half. Yeah. But then our defense in Chiefs fashion that year tied it in the second. We had Chiefs gear on and we had no issues. Everybody was, a lot of fun, good times. So, but, the Cardinals, I tend to not, I don't want to stir the pot too much. So I'll keep, I'd rather wear it to a Phillies game out here than walk across, town with it. So,
yeah.
Oh, there you go. Because I know down there in Tampa, whenever Jack sees someone wearing a Yankee jersey or a Red Sox jersey, he gets tough. So shit gets crazy everywhere. And watch out with Jack.
No,
I think that's just the Yankees anywhere,
Man, I tell you what, when I go to the Trop and the Yankees really, I mean, they'll root for their team. I don't have a problem with that. The Yankees are actually okay for the most part. I mean, once in a while you'll find somebody, kind of mouthing off, but the worst, I mean, I'm not saying that they're the worst fans. I'm just saying when they're at the Trop, they're the worst. It's the Red Sox, man. They get in fights with the people and it's pretty tense. They have a pretty good rivalry with both the Yankees and the Red Sox, even though we're also a very small market team. I think one of the smallest markets, but they've just done a phenomenal job with recruiting or scouting and pulling up guys from the minors, and just it's amazing what Tampa's done with so little. But then we don't have the Buster Posies, or it's you got to get a new jersey every year, so
Yeah,
you just get one with no name on the back, so you're good.
and that's my thing is I tend not to buy personalized jerseys, of players, because then they're gone or they do something stupid. I think the last one I bought was a Kareem Hunt jersey, and we all know how that turned out in Kansas City. So,
oh man,
He likes playing soccer.
yes.
Jeez.
All right, so I know that you're a big collector. Again, we'll get into the specifics and the immense collection of their sets and how special and beautiful they are. But tell us how you got started. What is it that got you into not necessarily collecting, but all these sets? And you're a huge completist also. How did all that get started?
The being a completist is kind of a curse. So I got my first bobblehead. So I was a Chiefs season ticket holder for several years, and then in 2014 I entered into a lottery to get World Series tickets, and I got picked. So I basically I bought 2 tickets to all 4 home games of the series against the Giants, and I was sitting there at Game 6 with my friend, and the Royals just totally dominated that game, and I really didn't have a good feeling about Game 7 because we knew who was on the mound for the Giants, and I didn't want to listen to Joe Buck talk about him over and over. So I was getting text messages from everybody, and I had a guy send me a text. He's like, dude, I will offer you X number of dollars for your Game 7 tickets. And I thought, that's a pretty hefty amount. It's more, almost triple what I paid for all 4 games. So I took it. And then I took that money and bought season tickets the next year for 15. And one of the first games that I went to was a bobblehead game. And I'm like, well, these are kind of cool. That was my first bobblehead that I owned. And I'm like, all right. So I got the whole season. Well, then I'm like, man, let's do some research here. And I was like, shit, they went all the way back to 2002 when they started giving out bobbleheads. I'm like, okay, I'll jumped on eBay, and there was like, $10-15. I grabbed, everything I could. And then I discovered the different Facebook groups, and, I call them a bunch of enablers. It's not a support group. They're enablers to a very sick addiction. Mm-hmm. And I just worked until I put the entire set, together. And then I'm like, okay, now what do I do? 2016 is not here yet. I can't wait for more bobbleheads. I need to find something. Well, then I learned that, minor leagues, they give out bobbleheads too. So I checked out all the Royals minor league teams and started making my list, and slowly but surely put together, the entire collection. Some didn't make sense. Like, I have no idea why there's a Bucky Dent bobblehead from the Omaha Royals, other than he was their manager, but he's in a Yankees uniform. So I don't understand that. They also gave out a Nolan Ryan bobblehead. No idea why. He never played for the Royals. There's several in the collection that I have, and I just question, like, what? I don't get it, but they're part of the set. I had to have them. So then when I moved out here and discovered, man, the minor league Blue Rocks, that's our single A team. They're right down the road. So then I became like the bobblehead mule for Kansas City. I bought 22 season ticket packages one year for all the people back in Kansas City. And I remember loading my car up to the ceiling with bobbleheads and driving them back at the end of the year for everybody. And it actually worked out kind of nice because I found people in Omaha, in Northwest Arkansas, that we just traded sets.
Nice.
So it worked out well. You make your connections. And so that's how I ended up with a full, complete set of Royals and all of their affiliates bobbleheads. And Lexington Legends was a tough one because they spent several years as a Astros farm team. So a lot of their bobbleheads were Astros players like Altuve, and they had a Roger Clemens, and that stupid little miniature Altuve, he was fetching $400 or $500. And I'm like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I made a good connection with their COO. And when the team president left after last summer, he called me. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "I got an office full of bobbleheads here.
Oh,
Are you interested?" And I'm like, "I'm on my way." So I packed up in the car, drove 8.5, 9 hours to Lexington, and he had like 4 of those mini Altuves there.
Wow.
And all in boxes. And he's like, made me an offer on everything. So I'm like, so I threw out a number. He's like, "I'll take it." So I came back and sold those 4 minis for almost double what I paid for the whole batch, and then kept one for myself. So it was like, man, sometimes you hit a deal like that, and other times, I mean, I spend hours scouring flea markets and antique malls and have no luck, and then you happen across something like that. So it's like, okay, that made up for it. So
Nice.
and something that I've noticed too in the last year or so, especially with COVID, slowing everything down, is I remember seeing all those mini Altuves that you found because you were traveling back and forth between where you're at now and Kansas City, and I was thinking, I'm like, everyone in the Houston groups is always looking for that Altuve. How the hell did you find so many? So I remember that, man. I remember that, and it's pretty cool.
straight out of the president's office. So
That's
it
awesome.
worked out well.
Right into what I was gonna talk about. He asked you to make him an offer. So in that conversation and from the deal that you made with him, do you think that someone that high up in I guess in a team knows what is happening in this market when it comes to the supply and demand of the bobbleheads?
I don't think so. I'll give you another story, and hopefully the guy I sold this to isn't listening. But the Burlington Royals, they gave away a bingo mascot.
Okay.
I don't remember how many years, but it was to kids only. So my guess is most of them didn't survive the day. It's kind of like the 2002 Sluggers that are so valuable in Kansas City. They were given to kids, so most of them never made it out of the stadium intact. So, I mean, I had exhausted Craigslist. I mean, everywhere. I trying to find one of these, and I thought, you know what? I jumped on the Burlington Royals website and I emailed. They had a list of their president, vice president, GM, whatever. I just all their emails, put them in a mass email and said, "Here's the deal. I'm looking for this bobblehead. Anybody have one by chance?" And I got an email back from the GM, and he's like, "Yeah, I got one sitting on my desk." He said, "I'll sell it to you for $30." He said, and he said that'll include shipping. I had to read it twice. I'm like, holy shit, really? Anybody else have one on their desk that they're wanting to get rid of?
Now, Cory, I'm laughing and Jack is laughing, but just to add a little info to the middle of the story, how much does that slugger go for now?
Oh, the bingo. I sold it to Matt Webb.
Okay.
Which,
big mascot collector.
Yeah, big mascot collector, spring neck page. I sold it to him. They sell normally about $200. I sold it to him in a kind of a cash and trade for the next springy bobblehead that they do for their group type of deal. So, but then on one of my adventures down there, my son and I took a summer trip. We actually last year were going to see a bunch of baseball games through North Carolina, but COVID obviously stopped that. So we stopped at Burlington, just it's a team store. I wanted to see if they had anything, and happened to ask the guy. I said, "Hey, is anybody around got one of those bingos sitting around?" And sure enough, the groundskeeper had one sitting on his desk.
Get out of here.
He said, he goes, he's at lunch. He goes, "Let me ask him." He said, "If you're going to be in town for a while," he goes, "I'll text you." He texted me. He said he wants $15 for it. I mean, I about wrecked my car doing the U-turn on the highway to go back. My son's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I got to go get this."
Yeah.
So
right away.
Yeah. So I said, "Anybody else while we're here want to?" So it was, that was a pretty good trip, but yeah, every once in a while you find good stuff like that.
So as this show airs, everybody's gonna be headed to their minor league teams. Like, hey, is the groundskeeper around? I'd be like,
they're gonna be emailing. Yeah. I just gave away my secret, but that's all right.
But listen, we're talking about different methods here that I'm pretty sure everyone uses in one way or another. Scouring the pages, the team website to get the contacts. What Cory did is something that, again, either people do it or maybe they should, start doing. Hit up the people that matter.
Right.
The person at the front that you're trying to get an extra one for $5, they have no power. They're just told to hand them off one at a time.
Right.
But the people that make the decisions, the promotions director or the marketing directors, they're the ones that have to come up with these ideas. So
Absolutely.
you build it.
And I felt fine doing it because they're the ones that offered the price. I didn't go in there and say, hey, I'll give you $10 for it,
Yep.
So they offered it. I said, sure. So
Jack, what about you? Have you found any crazy finds like this, whether it's a good bobblehead or a valuable bobblehead or anything memorabilia wise? I know you told us about Sean, the Washington Redskins guy, Sean Taylor. That's right. And that one that you found on eBay that turned out to be pretty good.
Oh yeah, I've found plenty of golden gems on eBay before, but bobbleheads, not that they were worth a lot of money or anything, but when you remember when Dr. Pepper, and I don't even know if he's still around, but they used to have Larry, the Dr. Pepper guy, for college football. He'd walk around with the stadium, and he kind of looked like Steve Spurrier a little bit. And anyway, and they released bobbleheads. Dr. Pepper did, and I don't know if, I guess maybe through their distributors or whatever, so people were getting a hold of these. And I started looking at that, and I'm like, I wonder where that thing comes from, because I couldn't find one anywhere except like on eBay. So I did some research on the Dr. Pepper, and somehow I figured out who the promotions company was. So I got in touch with the promotions company and talked to somebody there, and I was like, hey, do you have any of these Larry bobbleheads or whatever? And they're like, yeah, how many do you want? And I'm like, well, how much are they? and I bought like probably 3 or 4 cases of these bobbleheads from the promotions company, and they're like, yeah, we'll send it off. It was like $12 a bobble or something, and we'll just send you the whole case or whatever, shipping included. And so I'd get a couple cases in, I'd just go sell them like on the pages. I think at that time it was probably Wobbling or wherever. And it was just, I wasn't making a ton of money, but I made a little bit of money and got them out into the marketplace, and I got the one I wanted. And I still have probably a couple hanging out somewhere stored away, but it was just one of those things. So anytime I see something, like, I know the new thing is, the Corona has got the new Snoop Dogg. I seen that on a couple of the pages. I probably, I know Corona was selling the John Gruden's on their site, so it's pretty easy to get those. Someone said they're not going to be selling the Snoops, but it's like one of those things, like see who the manufacturer is or who the promotions company is. And now they're going to be getting all these emails like, hey, can I get some Snoops? But it's just, sometimes you got to do a little detective work. So I'm right there with Cory. It's a great idea.
I think the best find I ever had was actually just a few months ago. I was up in Cooperstown. I had been actually went up to Lake Placid. One of the things I've always wanted to see was the Olympic site, the arena and all this and that. So on my way back, I stopped for a day in Cooperstown and just hit the shops, see if there's any bobbleheads I need. And I was scouring through this one store, and they had a bunch of Foco bobbleheads, and all of a sudden, down in the dusty, dark corner, I see what looks like a crown from a slugger. And I looked, and sure as shit, it was the All-Star Fan Fest slugger. And that thing, the last one on eBay fetched $450. So I grabbed it and I looked at the price tag and I thought, that can't be right. And sure enough, I opened it up, mint condition, $39.
Oh,
and I know, I asked the girl, I'm like, you have any more of these cases of them in the back? And she goes, well, email the owner, because it was a Sunday. She goes, he doesn't work on Sundays, but email him and see. And I emailed him and never heard back. But pretty good find for $40.
Wow.
Let me ask you this: do you have, because you brought up the All-Star name? There's obviously the Mickey Mouse, there's the Apple, and there's the Statue of Liberty. I've seen all those 3 things go for a lot of money individually. Do you have all of them?
I don't have any of them.
Okay.
I justify that by they're not bobbleheads, so
okay.
I don't want to spend that money. The Statue of Liberty is ridiculous. I think the last one I saw available sold for about $1,200.
Yeah.
The Apple and the Mickey Mouse are, I won't say they're better, but they're lower. I think
Yeah.
the last Mickey was like $425, and the Apple, same thing, around that $400 range. I keep thinking someday I'm going to get lucky and find one at a thrift store out here in New York, find one of the Statue of Liberties,
Yeah.
but haven't had much luck yet. So
What about
I'll
the
say, sorry to interrupt you. For the Rays, I have the Apple, and I may have more than one, but I was just talking to somebody that needed the Apple, and we never made a deal. But the Apple, if you've seen it in person, it's, I mean, it's really cheap, and I don't know. I'm like, how is this thing worth like $300-400? Now, the Statue of Liberty I found a long time ago on eBay, and I ordered it. I've never seen another Rays one for some reason. But I got it on eBay, and it came in like some of the crown pieces were broken, even though it was packaged, okay. But so that one must be kind of fragile. But I very rarely see anywhere.
Yeah, I'm just not willing to pay. I mean, I'll spend stupid money on bobbleheads, but those seem like a little trinket to me. So I don't blame you. Can't do it.
Yeah, what's pretty cool about the statue, and I agree about the Apple though, Jack, because it's all decals. Yeah. That's all it is. It's the paint and it's the decals. But what I personally like about the All-Star bobblehead, right, and the Statue of Liberty is that they are molded specifically for the team. So they must have sent the idea to each team, and each team had to design theirs. That's why the Yankee one has just the years of that they've won a championship. And that's really all they need for that bobblehead. That tells their whole story. But the mold of the Statue of Liberty, as well as the All-Star bobblehead, is for the specific team, for their logos, or for whatever they're going to put on there. So that makes them pretty unique, and you can't just go buy another one and then just paint it over because you don't have or don't want to spend the $1,200 that Cory was talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that at least that part's pretty cool. But yeah, fuck that. I'm not going to spend $1,200 on something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not.
No.
I'll wait for retail. Sell it for $40, and maybe the owner will have an extra one. So anyways, another thing that we want to let you guys know about when it comes to Cory, we just talked about how big of a collector he was, and he is. And one of the biggest collections, and possibly the biggest collector when it comes to the pages and everybody on there that collects Negro League bobbleheads. I don't think there's anyone out there that holds a bigger collection or that is as devoted to finding everything bobblehead related than Mr. Cory. Now, Cory, tell me how that got started. And there's sets that I don't even know existed.
Yeah, so that fascination got started when the Negro League History.com and Bobblehead Hall of Fame launched their Kickstarter maybe 2 or 3 years ago, of their centennial set. And it had 30 bobbleheads in it. And basically I jumped in and was one of the backers of the Kickstarter. I'm kind of kicking myself now that I didn't do the matching serial number set. I jumped in at the $700 range. I wasn't quite comfortable with I think it was $1,200 to do a matching serial number, which, like I said, I wish I had, but hindsight's always 20/20. So I jumped in with that. Then they started doing some add-on pieces, and I joined a couple page, or actually ran across a couple people that had Negro Leagues bobbles, and I learned that there were about 17 or 18 stadium giveaways over the past several years. So I started trying to round those up. Some are pretty easy, some are cheap. I had some because Wilmington did a couple with the Judy Johnsons, so those were already in my set. Kansas City has a couple different Buck O'Neill ones. So, I had a few, and then I ran across a gentleman in Wisconsin who he had all of the stadium giveaways. And, he and I we worked back and forth trying to find some, and I kind of joked one day and I said, why don't you just sell me your set and I can quit looking? And about 2 months later, he messaged me and was like, all right, if you're still interested, I'm ready to move on to a different project. I'll sell. So he had several of the ones I already had of the Centennial set, but he only wanted to sell it as a batch. So I'm like, all right. So I bought the whole set from him, made a drive all the way to, I met him somewhere between Green Bay and Milwaukee. I don't know, somewhere up there. It was a long ass drive from Pennsylvania, but made that drive, picked everything up. He also had, I think 5 or 6 of the rare Stokesbury and Sons Negro League set, which again, being a completist, that ended up costing me quite a bit of money down the road. There are 14 in this set, made by a company called Stokesbury and Sons, and they're out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. There is very little info. I think I was telling Jack this while you were getting a drink earlier. Nobody knows much about these. We don't know how many were produced. The company is no longer in business. You know, if you try to Google it, basically all you're going to get is worth point sales of these things. They're probably some of the coolest bobbleheads, and I think I sent you a picture of them. They're made out of very fragile. They're porcelain, and I think the facial expressions on these really show, you know, the true struggles of the Negro Leagues. They don't look happy in any of them. It's just kind of a somber face. So it's really a cool set. That set, I'm missing one. I can't seem to find it.
Do these things ever show up on eBay or anything? Or
there's a few of them on there right now. There's another guy up in Wisconsin that has a couple of them, but his prices are stupid high.
Yeah, so. Ridiculous.
So anyway, these were made available to the Stokesbury and Sons clients, and I think you could order them from their. You had to call. They didn't have a website you could order from, so you had to call in, and I want to say they were, from what I've found, they were $25 or $30 a piece, and they made them in 1992 and 93, and then that's it. Now it's interesting. In that picture you'll see I think on the front row on the ends, you'll see 2 of them that have different bases. They've got a gold base on them, which is the Hall of Fame building. I don't know if all 14 have a version like that, but those are the only 2 I've ever found. I think one of them is Leon Day and the other is Willie Wells. Those are the 2 that I have. But yeah, Turkey Stearns is the one that I'm missing. Someday I'm sure he'll pop up somewhere. But again, I don't know if they made 100 of these, 50 of them. And nobody knows. There's literally no history out there on these things other than they're kind of expensive.
And the friend that has them, where did he get them? What is his story as far as where he got the one that you're missing?
I don't know. I didn't ask him that. I just know he has the full set, but he doesn't have the 2 gold-based ones, and he doesn't even know anything about that. And to my knowledge, he's probably one of the most knowledgeable when it comes to Negro Leagues bobbleheads. Like I said, he runs NegroLeaguesHistory.com and that Facebook page, and he is the one who has all of the rights to their likenesses, and he's the one that designs all the bobbleheads for them. So I don't know how he came about that. It's a good question that I've never actually asked him, but now I need to.
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, just at least to kind of like know where it started and obviously how he got the likeness and the rights to all of that, because that's massive. That's huge.
Right. And he tells a good story on the history of the Jackie Robinson bobbleheads and why there aren't any other than the one that managed to get out before. I guess the way they did it, there was supposed to be a series of 5 Jackie Robinson bobbleheads. And in the contract somehow got misinterpreted. And when the first one came out, his widow threw a fit. And basically she wanted them all recalled, if I'm understanding the story right. And there's no way we can do that. But she then nixed the next 4 in the series. So that one Jackie Robinson bobblehead is the only one, because I think the Dodgers have done a statue of him.
Statue only.
but I
A
don't
sliding
think they,
statue.
yeah, they've not done a bobblehead. So it's pretty interesting. But so that's his story. But the you mentioned it early on, the loan, my grail piece of Negro League bobblehead is the Satchel Paige Catman.
Okay.
And after emailing back and forth with Matt, the actual Catman up in Canada, 25 of them he made because that was his jersey number, and that's kind of how he justified it. I know he did a Patrick Mahomes one where he did only 15 of them, so he kind of does it based on their jersey number and what somebody's willing to pay to have them made. But I only know of one to exist. I've only seen one. There's a gentleman in New York. He's a big Mets fan. In fact, I'm going to a Mets game with him. So maybe if I can throw enough beers down him, he might sell it. I don't know. But he has number 1 of 25. So that, to him, that makes it even more special. I was a FOCO guy for a long time, and numbers on bobbleheads mean nothing to me anymore. But with this one being 1 of 25, I get it. But like I told you, I've thrown a couple stupid numbers at him, and he won't budge, which I probably wouldn't either, which is fine. Yeah. But he did tell me that when the time comes and he's ready to sell,
you'll be the first one.
First dibs. Now, it doesn't mean it'll be at one of those numbers. It's probably going to be a bigger number, but we'll cross that bridge when I get there.
But I can already see in the background, you already have space for it right there. You're already making space.
Yes, there's room. No, it'll probably have its own glass shatterproof case, locked and sealed. So
now I'm a season ticket holder for the Giants, and a couple of times we've gotten the invites through my rep to go meet with the promotions team a full year ahead of the next giveaway season. As soon as the season finishes in September, October, they're calling us. They're setting up this meeting because they already have some ideas for next year. But because production takes a long time, that itself explains why so early. So in those 2 meetings that I've had with them, I've often asked, can we do a Darth Vader Lucille bobblehead? Because every Star Wars day, Lucille comes out looking like Darth Vader, but for some reason they won't do a Darth Vader bobblehead, and that is because Lucasfilm says no one can do Darth Vader. That's one that is completely untouchable. So the I think it was Chomp Baka or Chomp, something like that. It's not even a bobblehead; it's just a figurine in the Star Wars lot. That's the only Vader that is out there. A Chomp Vader. That's what it is. Chomp Vader.
Interesting.
But at least that's what the director of marketing for the Giants for promotions and marketing, he said they just won't give us the rights to do certain characters, and Darth Vader is one of them, right? And the other one, we've asked with the history that the Giants have had with Mel Ott, with Chrissy Mathewson, and those guys back from New York. We've often asked, hey, can we start doing some Hall of Famers, some people that played with the Giants in the early history of the team? And they've said no, because their families don't want to give the rights. Yeah. So that too explains, that it correlates with the story that you told about Jackie Robinson, and with a team as big as the Dodgers, to not being able to have Mrs. Robinson give the rights away. I mean, it goes to show you that they really mean it. They don't want they don't want that stuff out there.
Yeah, protecting the rights, and understand.
Well, it makes you wonder, though, as they pass away, right? I mean, I guess those rights would transfer to whoever in the will or whatever. But I mean, you wonder if future generations are going to be like, not a big deal to me. It might be nice to see my, great grandfather or whoever, memorialized somehow, or, I wonder if that'll change down the road once,
They'll need the money at some point.
Right.
Well, and what about Lucasfilms, because they sold out to Disney? So doesn't Disney own those likenesses now? I mean, I'm sure they'll sell out. Or does Lucas still have it somehow? They have some type of control, maybe still.
I'm thinking that they do have some control of it. Look at the last trilogy that came out, and now we're talking about movies, but the last trilogy that came out, a lot of people like them, but a lot of the old school Star Wars fans. They're like, it was all right. And now George wants to redo the last three movies, the last trilogy. He wants to redo the whole thing because he either didn't like it, or he just wants to tell a different story, whatever. So I'm sure they do have some type of hold on to some of the rights to some of
Yeah.
the characters. Darth Vader being the biggest one, that's completely understandable. But hey, I'm sure that at some point they'll come out because everyone will need the money at some point.
Yeah, time changes things, especially when some of these people, when the future people that have control those rights aren't billionaires like Lucas, right?
Yeah. And then another thing that we talked about before, and one other cool little set that you have over there is you have the complete, and I'm talking about the complete Sandlot set. What I mean by that is the Louisville Bats 3 years ago, or yeah, I believe 3 years ago, they did a ham bobblehead giveaway. Let's say 1,000, like they always do. However, four of those, only four, were randomly given out, and all four of them were gold bobbleheads. They were gold ham bobbleheads. When I saw somebody say, "Hey, is anybody interested in them?" Right away, I said, "Hey, I can help you raffle that one. Let's go ahead and let's get you a good amount." And we went ahead and we raffled it for the first time. And John Guts out of Salt Lake City is the bobblehead. About a year and a half later, not too long ago, he tells me, "Hey, I'm trying to raffle it again. I'm trying to get rid of it, get this in somebody else's house." So we raffled it again. And when we raffled it again, this time a winner was Brian Schmuck, who's also out of Kansas City, and he's got the Kansas City group. Is that the biggest Kansas City group that he's got out there?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got the most recognizable Kansas City group out there, and that's Brian Schmuck. And I obviously didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, but I know that then Cory posted a picture saying, "Hey, I finally got the gold ham in my hands." So that's
Yep.
kind of like how I knew that that something happened over there. How many are in the complete set now, Cory?
Well, just looking here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14.
Are they still making more Sandlots? I mean, did some come out this year? I haven't really paid attention.
The Cleveland Indians just did one. I really thought we were done, but the Cleveland Indians did one, and then Roberto, you said, I think it was you that told me, didn't you think there was a couple squints that there's a couple?
I think there's two more squints.
So it looks like I've got 26 back there on the shelf, plus that Texas Rangers gave away a slime ball. It's not a bobblehead. And then the only other thing I have is I've got a signed baseball by the guy that played Squints, and he's filled the entire ball out with a bunch of his quotes from the movie. So
cool.
There you go. And I keep thinking, and at the same time crossing my fingers, because I'm not doing the whole set, but I do want to have every character of the movie, because the Sandlot lives within each one of us.
absolutely.
But the Cardinals, so far, they're the ones that have been doing different characters every single time.
Yep.
And
they've
I'm
done
hoping
4 total.
Yes, and I'm hoping that they release the other characters. And again, I start thinking, okay, well, there's got to be negotiations in the background. They got to be working on numbers in order to release the rest of them. But I'm hoping that the Cardinals do get to release all the other ones, because as we know, the Sandlot is not complete without Wendy Peppercorn and without Benny the Jet. We got to have them. And a couple of people have done customs of them. And although they look very, very nice and they're very creative, it is them. So for me, as a collector and as someone that has this subset in my collection, I would like to see it continue. But enough with the hams. Enough with the hams. That's all of them. And if you're gonna do hams, do different poses.
Right. I was just gonna say, my problem with the multiple hams is they're all the same. Now, no, they all did the same. I was just a different form. The Brooklyn Cyclones and the Miami Marlins are the only two that didn't use that same exact mold as the other teams.
And that's because it's going to be cheaper bobbleheads for the page. So they use the same mold, it's going to be cheaper. So a team, especially a minor league team, a small market team, is going to say, okay, well, I can pay for a brand new mold, or I can just use the mold that you already have, slap on a brand new sticker, and all of a sudden, boom, it's done. And to us collectors, we're like, well, shit, we don't want that. And that's just dumb. Imagine seeing imagine seeing Ham doing the cannonball.
Right. Yes. Well, it's a
You
lot
know,
like
that'd be super
Foco.
cool.
It's a lot like Foco with the sluggers. I mean, how many Foco sluggers can they possibly do with him standing and leaning on a bat? I made the decision about 2 summers ago to just stop with Foco altogether. Because after 22 Mahomes bobbleheads, whether it be him on a horse or him on the standing on top of the world spinning, I was like, I can't do it,
Yeah.
And so I made the decision. I kept the Super Bowl set. I kept my St. Louis Blues set, and then my Cardinals and Royals World Series set. Those are the only Foco ornaments, bobbleheads I still have. I sold everything else, and I haven't looked back. I see some that come out. I'm like, those are cool, but I'm like, nope, don't buy them. You're not doing it. So
It's a trap.
that's how I can afford to buy that gold ham.
There you go.
I was gonna say.
dude,
I was going to say that Kenny could probably have about 3 or 4 of those gold hams with the amount of money he spent on Dodgers World Series bobbleheads this year. I mean, Foco puts out a new one every week. It's like, here's a panda bear with a Dodgers logo on it and a World Series. Like, what the hell is that?
That's what I said. I'm like, man, I need to become a Bengals fan if I'm going to stay in the Foco market.
That's so funny. Anyway, so yeah, no, it's pretty good, man, because that's a problem, not even a problem, but that is something that every collector eventually has to come across. And that is starting a second set or a subset of some sort, whether it's the mascots, whether it's the minor league players that are missing, the minor league giveaways, the little trinkets that we all want. That sometimes it can get a little too crazy if you don't grab a hold of it and if you don't come up with a game plan. I only have 2 small subsets, which is one of them is the MMA. I did the MMA set. I'm a fan of the sport, and they're nicely crafted, nicely done. Both the ones that are sold on MMAbobblehead.com and the ones from the sports events. So I have both of those, and I have another one with some I think it's like the Playboy girls and stuff like that. Just because, hey, I'm a dude. But a couple of them I've avoided because it is hard to get every single one of them. And you do bring up Kenny, or even Robert, Robert Allen with all the Giannis that he has. You Corey, you mentioned all the Foco ones that come out, and it's just sometimes it's too many. Robert Allen has every single Giannis that has ever come out, and often he says, "Oh, here goes another one," but he's got to get them to continue. Sure. To continue the set. The Dodgers are the Dodger fans are getting raped.
Oh my God.
With all the bobbleheads that are coming out.
And don't they do like 15 or 20 giveaways throughout the year also?
Yep. So it's still a lot of them. And then they had the Kershaw that came out yesterday or 2 days ago. And then they had another one, I think it was a Bellinger that came out in the minor leagues, and also the Dodgers just gave one out that Kenny was raffling. So down in LA, it's going to be crazy. There's going to be a lot of money spent, and I hope that those market prices stay up for their sake. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of rough for them down there. Right. I'm glad my team hasn't won lately. Otherwise, holy shit, man, I'm going to have to make more space because this is crazy.
Yeah, I'm kind of dealing with that with the Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl. I mean, I was expecting them not to put a ton of baubles out, Foco. I mean, I know it's Brady, but I'm like, Buccaneers fans are, I'm a Bucs fan. I can say it, right? They're pretty cheap when it comes to memorabilia, or they used to be. Now that Brady's here, everything's super expensive. But I started collecting the Super Bowl baubles. I'm like, I'm just gonna do Brady, and then I got roped into maybe I'll do just Brady and Gronk. So that's what I've done. But they just keep coming out with them over. Yeah. There's a new one every freaking week. Yeah. And I'm like, how many can they make? And maybe I'll just stop at some point. But something comes out, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. They just came out with this 3-piece pirate ship. It's like 3 different pieces that go together to make a big ass ship, and it's got Gronk and Brady and Mike Evans on it. I'm like, I gotta buy this.
That big ass
They
ship.
keep roping me goddamn back in, and I'm like, freaking Foco,
It's terrible.
you're killing me.
Do you have a favorite one, Corey? Out of all the ones that you have, I know that it's kind of unfair to ask a favorite one, but is there a specific one that brings up a good memory or something that you say, you know what? Yes, this is the must have that I just gotta have.
I don't know that there is a favorite one. As I sit here and look, probably one of the hardest ones, was the 2002 Slugger for the Royals. Because that's a $400, $450 bobblehead all day long on Raz's, and I'm like, I'm not paying that. I actually got mine from Brian Schmuck. I think he had 5 or 6 of them at one point. And I had gone back to Kansas City. I want to say it was 2018 for the Chiefs Colts playoff game.
Okay.
And I had a pair of club level tickets, and I ended up tearing up my knee. I don't know if I slipped on something happened, but I could barely walk the day of the game. So kind of as a joke, I put out in the Royals bobblehead page, I'm like, hey, I got a pair of club level tickets. I don't want to sell them, but if anybody's got a Slugger, I'll make a trade right now.
Yeah.
And bam, there went that trade. So that's how I came across my Slugger. And I had the Chiefs tickets given to me, so it didn't cost me anything. So
Awesome.
Worked out well.
That's a good way to find a grail.
So yeah, sometimes the ones that you don't buy and you acquire them at a kind of in a weird way, they tend to hold a little more specialness, I think. I do have another one that so this guy right here. Have you guys heard of the Baseball Passport book?
Yes.
That guy by the name of Tim Parks he created. So basically, you go to ballparks, and it's kind of like your actual passport, but you stamp in. Let's see, I have one here. So you get I don't know if you can see it very well, but you stamp in. Each stadium has a stamp, and you can date it.
Huh.
And so he created his own bobblehead. So there's 3 of them, and his name is Chase in Parks. So you're chasing Parks.
Got it.
And so he's got a red, white, and blue one, and they each have their own saying on their shirts. So those are kind of fun. My son and I have this adventure to visit every major league ballpark. We had quite a few of them down, and then we got the book, and he's like, I think we should start over. So last year we actually had a trip planned. We were going to hop an Amtrak in Kansas City, and we were going to visit 17 parks in 21 days, coming all the way across. The final game was going to be Yankees Red Sox at Fenway. One of the days we were going to catch, this was going to be the best day. It was going to be Cardinals Mets at noon, and then Royals Yankees at 7:00. So I got to see both of my teams play on the same day, but obviously COVID happened, and we weren't able to do that. So anyway, we're working on some trips. I'm actually flying back to Kansas City. I'm going to take my son and all my nephews to Chicago on the train to see the Royals and Cubs play in August, to take them all to Fenway. So, but yeah, he's done that. And I think he's got a minor league book. So all the minor league parks have a stamp. It's a pretty cool deal that, anybody who goes to a lot of games, it's a fun way to keep track of all your games.
How many of those bobbleheads did he make?
There's 3 of them. And they're all, like I said, there's one in a red shirt, one in a white shirt, and one in a blue shirt. So the red,
How many total? Like out of how many?
This one is numbered out of 504. Let me grab the other 2. They're right here.
He's got
That'd be pretty cool, Jack. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, actually, for those that do like to visit all the ballparks. They got to know about.
So here's the white one. He's out of 504, and see the arm also shake. He's holding a stamp in each hand, and then this one is out of 500. So I don't know why 2 of them are out of 504 and the other's out of 500, but
Huh, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool. I did not know about that. And sometimes on the
Yeah.
feed, you see all these stuff about the parks and visiting different ones. And there's different things that you can do visiting different parks. But the passport's something that I've heard about, but I had never heard about the bobbleheads from the
Yeah.
creator, and I think that that's pretty cool.
Yep.
I think that's pretty awesome.
And they're
That
actually
is-
of him is what the bobbleheads are him, the way I understand it. So, but they've got their own Facebook page, and they have what they call nerd stats. It's a hashtag nerd stats. So basically what they try to do is get a complete stamp out. So every game each day, to get us, because you take your picture, post it to their page, and they track it for, how many people are at games that day. So it's kind of fun to see all the people. And then they try to do once a year what they call a stampede, and because he's from I think the Cincinnati area, so they pick a Reds game where they basically invite everybody. You go down on the field, do a big group picture beforehand, but they couldn't get it worked out together being on field this year with COVID restrictions. So gonna do it next year. But usually, I'll meet 2 or 3 people at every stadium I go to that has the book, and you see them stamping them. So it's a fun way to meet people, just like the bobbleheads. I mean, I've met so many cool people, some not cool, some are I don't ever want to deal with again, but some, I wouldn't hesitate to do business at all times with them. So, but I've never really had I've never really had a bad transaction with anybody. But some people, I just feel it's like, man, they're in this strictly as a business and not as a hobby. And that's kind of frustrating sometimes, but it is what it is. It's, as long as there's money to be made, there's going to be people out there making money, and that is what it is. So
when I first got in the hobby and started thinking about like, okay, I got a couple extra Giants ones, the Giants were, doing pretty good with the World Series championships. But I remember it would be kind of tough to fill a Giants rash just because the price line was always a little high, because Giant bobbleheads are pretty out there sometimes, or at least the older ones. And no one would want to go ahead and pay the full price right away. But when they found one at the flea market or at Goodwill, oh, they wanted the same line. So I know what you mean. I know what you mean when it comes to that. Now, throughout this conversation, I've been meaning to ask you something, and forgive me if I have it wrong, but is it you or is it Brian that has the website with every single, with the list of every single Royals affiliate, a bobblehead in there?
That was me.
Okay.
I'd get the questions all the time of, what does this bobblehead look like? And it's ones where of the players, Alex Gordon that has 2 or 3 different ones, George Brett, which one's the 02, which one's the 07. And I thought, you know what, I've got a little bit of web design skill. I was a photographer for 25 years. So I just set up a little box and started snapping pictures and created a website. I did the same thing for the Negro League's bobbleheads as well. So
wow. Okay.
I've created 2 different websites, and it's just easier to direct people there. There's pictures of everything you can imagine. I attempted to get all the FOCO on there, but I think there's a space limitation on my website, so I'm out of photo space for FOCO. So, and it was easier because all the ones that you see in there were ones that I owned at one time, because I just lined them all up. But now that I'm not buying FOCO, I don't have the photos, so I probably will not be updating those. But at the end of the season, I'll take all the ones from this year and update all that.
Cool.
And I believe, so now that I remember, didn't you tell me that you also put in there what date was given away, how many were given out? I mean,
as close to the, most of them are pretty easy to find that info. Some of them, it's a little sketchy as to when it was given away. Like, for instance, in 2002, they gave a Royals one away twice, because the first day that they went to give them out, it was rained out, but some people had already got them. So I think that was Carlos Beltran, I think. But and it's funny because it says on there the first ever Royals bobblehead, but then they gave a slugger away and then another the Beltran again. So some people are like, well, did you get the first or the second? It's like, who knows? So but it was given out twice. And now this year, a lot of the minor league teams, I know Northwest Arkansas, they have broken their 1,000 bobblehead giveaway up into 2 500 bobblehead nights.
Okay.
And I think Wilmington is similar. So this year was kind of interesting with Wilmington. A lot of all their bobbleheads that they're giving away this year were supposed to have been given out last year. So technically they're still Kansas City Royals because they're giving away a Whit Merrifield.
Right.
But they've broken that up over 2 nights, August 14th and 15th. And I'm not sure they did that with the others, but they've got they did that Tyler Lee, which I think he was a local guy. It's not a bobblehead, his arm bobbles. He's holding the trophy that they won from the Carolina League. And then they're doing, actually, what's pretty cool, I can't wait to see the other one, but they're doing a 2 bobble like puzzle of the old Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Oh.
But one of them is Mr. Celery and the other is Rocky. They're 2 mascots. So their arms bobble back and forth. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. So,
earlier this year, when before COVID started, there was I don't know what word to use, Cory, but there was something with the Soler bobble, right?
Yes.
Little drama with that one, and I think I was telling you about that, Jack, a couple episodes ago, that there was a bobblehead given away, or that was supposed to be given away last year, but it wasn't given away. And please, Cory, correct me when I get this wrong.
Hold on, let me stop you. It was actually the Hunter Dozier bobblehead.
Okay. I thought it was the Soler. Soler is the round one. The Dozier is the one in the bulldozer. Correct.
Yep. So that is this one right here. So
all right, I'll let you tell the story. So tell us about what happened with this one, with the pre-release. What was it supposed to be? Because I know that there's a pretty cool little dramatic story with this.
I don't know all the exact details, but this one was one of the ones last year that was supposed to have been given out. And what they did, if I'm not mistaken, they sold to different season ticket packages or holders. You could buy a giveaway package. Well, they gave away some of these early. Well, it turns out these were never supposed to go out because on his hand right here, it's not attached to the gear shift. And that was the error. The ball's not touching the gear shift like it's supposed to be. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the big error on it. So supposedly all of those were supposed to have been destroyed.
Okay.
But apparently the person in charge of destroying them didn't destroy them all and thought, ooh, let's make some money. And he sold 2 or 3 cases to a couple different people that then started razzing them for a lot of money. I bought mine from the guy fairly cheap, just because I knew him, and so
it's the groundskeeper, Jack. Is the groundskeeper.
I was gonna say it's gotta be.
To my understanding, that person has since been relieved of their duties with the Royals. I don't know the exact gist of it, but yeah, there was an error on it, and the original ones were supposed to be destroyed. And you can see the pictures of the new one on the website. His hand's actually on the ball, the gear shift, instead of the ball sitting on top of his hand. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't really seem like that big of a mistake to throw such a fit and destroy 15,000 bobbleheads. But,
wow,
maybe it was Dozier that said but I think when you're batting 128, I don't think you should get a say in what goes on.
Correct. And those variants, they'll get you. And right now, the latest thing as a Giants collector, the latest thing that I want to see, if it's going to be an issue or not, is last night they gave out the Mike Yastrzemski bobblehead. Mm-hmm. That one was supposed to be given out last year. So throughout the whole promotional commercials and then the stuff on the internet, on the website and stuff like that, it's the same one that they gave out last year. But earlier in the season, Mike, he was growing a mustache. So he was struggling, and then he shaved the mustache and he started hitting good again. But when they announced it during his struggles, the bobblehead that they showed had one of his new mustaches on it. But the one they gave away last night, none of them had a mustache because now. So now that's something that I've had in the back of my head is like, all right, so what's going to happen to that? Right. Because the one that they show you on the commercials or on the website, we all know that that's the prototype, and the prototype is going to have perfect lines. Everything is going to be perfect.
Right.
They may not even have it in their possession In order to do the commercials, they may just have the photo with the white background so they can go ahead and use it how they want. So that's an interesting question that I'll have later on. But I think it ties into what Corey's talking about, whether the guy has the hand on the gear shift or not. You know,
Well, and several years ago, I want to say, I'm not sure what year, but Omaha did a bobblehead of Alex Gordon in his high school uniform. And people started noticing when they opened it that his name was spelled wrong. So nobody checked these ahead of time, but they went ahead and gave them all out. And then later in the year gave a corrected one. So, you know, that's a somewhat valuable. I think the last name, I think they left an O out of his last name. So I think it was Gordn.
Gordo, right? Or
Gordon,
something like that.
Something like that. So I kind of like when they give out these errors, you know, and just go ahead and just own up to it and give it. It makes it, you know, it gives it a story, basically. So,
Or when they put the wrong on the wrong base on the wrong player, that's more for the FOCO ones.
right.
Because
Yes.
you got my, I think it was my Orlando Cepeda FOCO
Juan
Hall of Fame
Parrish.
FOCO one.
Yeah,
But
the
it
Juan
had,
Parrish on base. Yep.
Correct. And it had the Fergie Jenkins
Fergie Jenkins.
base on it.
Yep.
But that's retail. That's
Right.
retail. You know,
Yeah.
the fact that they don't catch the SGAs like
Right.
when the Giants did a Moses Alou, they spelled it GANATS or something like that, or GAI first. Misspelled, but they still give them all away.
Right.
You know, so there's little mistakes, you know, for the collector, it'll drive us kind of crazy. And for some, where's you gonna be like, who gives a shit?
Right.
You know?
But
But
you have to
no,
have it if you want it. So
that's very, very true. So yeah, no, man, this is pretty cool. I'm glad that we finally got to talk. Like I said, you know, that's why I said we've known each other for a while, and I think that this was a pretty good opportunity to have a conversation about one of the best collectors out there when it comes to being loyal to the hobby and to being loyal to the other members that are in it for the hobby. And you know, we touched on that earlier. Some of them just want to make a buck. It's all right. You want to go ahead and make $1 to grow your connection. That's totally fine. My thought is don't do it on the back of other people because
Right.
they too have to go through the same thing that we went through at one point. But yeah, no, this is awesome, man. This is pretty cool. I like that you showed us all the important ones.
yes.
And one thing, give us the names of the websites for the Royals and for the FOCO collection that you have.
So the
We'll
Royals
check it out.
Royals is just kcbobbles.com, and the Negro League is nlbbobbles.com.
Awesome.
All right. And then, so yeah, I mean, this was a lot of fun. I hope you had a little bit of fun with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's a
glad
little
to
bit
do it.
late.
I know we've talked about it for a while, so just glad we were able to make it happen.
Of course. And I know that it's a little bit late where you're at. So next time that we talk, we'll go ahead and we'll do it a little bit earlier with a little sunshine in the background.
No worries, no worries. I'm a night owl, so it works.
Good.
So is Jack.
You have
Yeah.
to spend money
Yeah.
on Jack's Razzes. You got to be a night owl.
Yeah. It's the only time I have with the little kids running around all day, like Roberto's got right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's anybody I've met from the Kansas City area, collector wise, big collectors, great people, you know, like Chuck Tedder and Jonathan Rodriguez. I mean, it's everyone I've met from the Kansas City area just seems like, you know, you have a great community there as far as collecting goes. And
Yeah, and like I said, you know,
really,
everybody I've met, you know, along the way, mostly all great people. There's a few that, and I won't say that they're bad people. They're just hard to get along with. You know, and the way they do things. But you know, my option there is don't do business with them. I don't have anything negative to say about them. It's just, you know, I choose to not deal with them. So
We should do an episode on all the bad guys in the hobby, Jack.
can we have them on? So talk to them.
Yeah, there you go. Like, why are you such an asshole with your prices? You know, that'll be the first question to everyone.
The Negro League stuff was very interesting too, because I was telling, you know, Corey before we started. I mean, I just haven't seen, you know, besides some of the SGAs that have come out, I didn't even know that even existed, to be honest. So very cool.
No, it's pretty cool.
I jumped into another thing with the Negro Leagues after I got all but those two. I found a Upper Deck made a historical beginnings statues. And I came across one that was really cheap on eBay, and I bought it. Oh, this is really cool. Well, I'll be damned if there weren't more. So I'm like, shit, gotta have those. And I just got the last one, the Josh Gibson.
Nice.
And I got that. It was on eBay, and I was like, holy crap. And I kept getting outbid, and I'm one of those that I don't like to snipe because I don't have enough time to sit there and watch it to the end, because then I start bidding emotionally.
Yeah.
So I put my high price in there, and I'm like, this is it. I'm not even going to look back. And then I got outbid, and I got that notice about 2 days before it was over. I'm like, damn it. So I'm like, all right, one more time. Like, I've never seen this for sale. One more. This is my top. And I ended up getting it for, I think, $150. So it wasn't bad, but those things are awesome. I mean, the Jackie Robinson one, it's almost 14 inches tall. Wow. I mean, they're massive, and they come in amazing boxes, all velvet lined. And then the other thing, a company called Gartland, I think it's Gartlan. So they did an autograph series. And of course, I'm struggling to find my last one, but I have 3 of them. One of them is Cool Papa Bell, and it actually has a little plaque, and they've autographed them. They're JSA witness.
Wow.
Bob Motley, the umpire, he signed one, and then the one I'm missing out of that is Ray Dandridge. There's a guy, he's got one on eBay right now. He thinks it's worth $500, and it isn't, at least not in my wallet. It's not. So, but
let's bring him on and we'll ask him the question.
Exactly. Well, and then, so have you guys seen the new Negro Leagues that they just launched? So if you've ever been to the museum in Kansas City, museum is all the exhibits are around, and in the center they have what they call the Field of Legends. And what they have done in that Field of Legends, there's life-size bronze statues of like the all-stars of each position.
Nice.
So Josh Gibson's catching, Satchel Paige is pitching, but then they have Buck O'Neill as one of the managers, and then Rube Foster, who was one of the keys to starting the whole thing. So what they've done is they've replicated that as a big puzzle. So the base all fits together, and they've replicated that Field of Legends, and wow. It's launching. Actually, it just launched for sale. I think you can buy the whole set for $650. Be sharp the way they set this all up and made it look. I thought I had the picture. Maybe I don't.
And these are already released, or they're going to be released?
They just released them about 3 days ago.
Oh, okay. So this is very, very recent.
Yeah. So if you go to Negro League's history or NegroLeagueHistory.com, you can see them on there.
Cool.
Okay. It's pretty awesome. They're launching 40 new bobbleheads this year.
Whoa.
And there's one set that they haven't released it yet, and I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but it's an 8 bobble set of one specific player, and of the 8, 6 of them are going to have voice chips in it, the sound chips. 2 of them are going to be the part 1 and part 2 of his Hall of Fame induction speech. So it's going to be a pretty sharp set once it is officially launched. So cool. I won't name the player yet because I don't want to get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
So,
No.
It's coming out soon. So they're doing some good work with the bobbles they have. The biggest challenge the way I understand it is licensing. The Negro League's baseball museum, if the player is deceased, I think they own the rights to it. But then the family still has to approve. I'm not sure how the whole process works, but it's pretty interesting how it all works with the estates and this and that. But there's not many Negro Leagues players still living. I want to say only 8 to 10. I know the Syracuse Mets just gave away a bobblehead last night. It's interesting. They coined it as a Negro League Centennial Celebration, but the bobblehead they gave away, the guy never played in the Negro Leagues, but he was the first African-American player to ever play pro baseball. So he played for the Syracuse Stars, I want to say back in the 1860s, long before the actual Negro Leagues. And then there's a team somewhere in New Jersey, I want to say Somerset, Is there a minor league team in summer? A
Yeah,
Yankee, maybe AA affiliate.
I
So
believe
they're
so.
doing a Negro Leagues night where they're giving away an Elston Howard bobblehead. The only problem is he's in a Yankees uniform. So, he played for the Negro Leagues, but then he was one of the few that went on to play in the majors. So they're doing him in a Yankees uniform as opposed to the Negro Leagues team. So I was kind of disappointed with that. I don't know if I will consider that part of the collection. I'm going to go get the bobblehead anyway, but I don't know if it's a true Negro League since he's in a Yankees uniform. So
Right.
I know Lake Erie, they're doing a Satchel Paige bobblehead. Florence Yalls, they're doing the exact same bobblehead just with a different plaque on it. And then there's a team up in the north central part, I want to say in Minnesota, doing another Negro Leagues this year. And those are the only ones I know of, Negro Leagues. I thought there might be more with the inclusion of the Negro Leagues into the Major League stat books now. But maybe they, with COVID, they're just doing what they did last year. So maybe in the next year or two, we'll hopefully see some more stadium giveaways.
Hopefully, because it's definitely a nice collection to have, that they're part of history, of course.
Yeah. Probably my favorite of the stadium giveaways. The Birmingham Barons did a Willie Mays, and it's probably the most valuable of the stadium giveaways, I think, in the Negro Leagues. It's a pretty good looking bobblehead. So
it's the only one of Willie Mays in a minor league uniform.
Yes.
There's nothing else with Willie Mays in there, even retail. There's nothing there. So I have that one. It's a very nice bobblehead, very nice weight to it, and very nice spring, which bobble's good.
It's a very heavy bobblehead. I really like it. So
yeah, very nice bobblehead done. Now I did just think about something else to ask you. You're working with a lot of groups, and I'm sure a lot of groups are also aware of your collection. What are your plans, or has anyone approached you to buy your collection, or to give them information, or to share your knowledge that you have about the Negro Leagues and the relation with the giveaways and everything, how it all ties in together?
Nobody's approached me about buying. I think they know that it's not for sale. I don't even know if somebody offered me a stupid amount of money, it would be just because it's a work in progress, and until I have those last two in my hands, it won't be complete. So I doubt I will sell it before it's complete. My son thinks I'm crazy. He's like, Dad. I go, dude, this is your inheritance. And he keeps asking, he goes, well, what are all these worth? I said, you'll get a list on my deathbed of what they're worth. I said, but prior to that, I don't want any accidental poisonings or whatever happening. But he, when he found out how much I paid for that gold ham, he just shook his head like, I don't know what to do. I was like, don't worry about it. It's not your money yet. So, as far as collaborating, I have the guy with the Negro Leagues stuff. He and I talk quite a bit as far as, ideas on this and that. Then there's a gentleman in St. Louis that he is partial owner of the Field of Dreams site there in Iowa. And he's wanting to do a bobblehead for the Field of Dreams, like an actual Field of Dreams set of the different players coming out of the corn. So we've kind of collaborated on that, but other than that, nothing too technical. I've thrown some ideas at the Royals marketing guys. I know the guy who's in charge of their bobbles. One of my favorite things that I saw recently, or maybe it was last year, 2 years ago, the Nationals, they do a college rivalry night. I happened to go to a game. I think it was Virginia Tech, so they had, but they do their mascot in each of the college colors. And I thought that bobblehead, I thought that was kind of cool. And I said, instead of doing the same stupid slugger pose over and over, I said, what if you get the local Missouri, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Wichita State, those and do slugger in their colors. And like, oh, that's a real good idea. So I'd like to think that could come to fruition at some point. And I had a little bit to do in it, but otherwise I just kind of keep my ideas to myself unless somebody really asks and I feel like they really want it. So,
I sometimes I feel like telling these guys that I may know from the Giants, like, hey, check out this page. You'll see what happens to the bobbleheads. It's not too bad. People want them. We're able to trade them.
In Kansas City, we've got probably one of the most talented customized guys I've ever seen. Matt Bowers is in a Oakland A's sugar skull in a raffle. I don't know why I was in it, but I think that was the last item chosen, and I was the last pick, so that's what I got. So I sent it to Matt Bowers, and I said, "Hey, can you put him in a Monarchs, Kansas City Monarchs uniform?" And dude, he knocked it out of the park. It was probably one of the best customs I've seen. Well, then I thought, well, this is cool. I want more. So I ended up buying 7 more Oakland A's skulls from, I think, Kenny Rimka, that last name, from him. And then he ran out of those. And so I searched and found 4 Milwaukee Brewers that look kind of cool. So I sent all 11 of those to Matt, and I said, all right, here's the different teams I want. So I have a set of 12 sugar skulls, all in Negro League's uniforms. And so that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Now, you and I
send you a picture of those.
Great idea.
You and I, Cory, we know him as Matt, but on Facebook, it's Tony Bowers.
It's Tony Bowers, yes.
Correct. Yeah,
Yes.
he's a very, very nice guy, very detailed, and he does his research for his work. I remember I would talk to him here and there, and he would tell me the process of him doing his work. And I remember he reminded me of when I first started, which is details.
Yep.
I'm very detailed with my work. I do the research for everything on there. And I agree. He's very, very talented, extremely talented. He's got a very, very good idea. So, definitely shout out to Tony. I mean, not Tony, to Matt Bowers.
I tried to do a custom myself, and it looked like a second grade art project when I was done. So I decided that I'm going to leave that to the guys that know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
All right. No, this is fun, man. We definitely got to do it again.
absolutely.
Would like to have you on when you get your grails, because they're going to come out.
Absolutely.
They'll
I'll
be
find
right
them.
there with you. Yep.
And that's
So-
the hunt is probably my favorite part of this whole process.
Right.
And it's kind of like that Hall of Fame set. That was so much fun to track down, and then I had it. And I'm like,
Start over.
Now what do I do with it? So I'm like, all right, let's find another. And that's when the Sandlots came out. So I'm like, all right, let's sell the Hall of Fame set, and we'll start on something else. And that's where the Sandlot came in. So, I just reached out to Roberto earlier about, what do you think I could razz that whole set for? It's like, 40 new Negro Leagues bobbleheads coming out, where I got to get some funds, because I hate taking personal money. I keep my PayPal, although it scares me to keep money in PayPal nowadays from all that shit I've seen. But, I have my play money for my hobbies and given to Jack for raffles. So I don't like to use personal money on that stuff. So, but.
Now, nobody knows this, but Jack and I have been conversating, and I think Jack's going to come out with his own credit card pretty soon. Yeah, I'm not going to tell
you. If he would start issuing lines of credit, that would be fantastic. No interest payments over monthly, But I see some of those guys in your raffles that, they're doing 2 and 3 spots in every one of them. I'm like, oh my God. But I guess it's one of those things, you gotta play to win.
Yeah, it's like you see some of them and what they win, and you're like, damn, why didn't I win that? And you're like, well, you have one spot, what do you want?
I know.
It's the odds, right?
Oh, and then I talked to Brett Coy a lot, and he's like, man, I went through a phase of 3 or 4 months and didn't win a thing. And I'm like, dude, I just watched you win 6 helmets in the last hour. What the, So
yeah, don't forget, Brett won the $15,000 Michael Jordan, jacket, the warm-up jacket.
Yeah. Yep, I know. So, but yeah, it's kind of like the Powerball, man. You gotta play to win, and so I don't win there either. So it is what it is.
Here's a little side story about Brett Coy, right? So I'm doing a custom for Brett, and he won a RAS where he gets a custom from me, and it's taking me a very, very long time, and I feel horrible, but I just don't have the time. But when I do, I find the 5 minutes, and I make sure that all those 5 minutes are dedicated to what I'm doing, which is why people like my work. But anyways, I'm doing a Alex Gordon wall catch. the wall catch
Okay.
that he did, robbing the home run to end the game against the White Sox
Okay.
a couple years ago. And the problem that I'm running with it is I can't just do a regular wall because it wasn't against the wall; it was against a fence.
Right.
So I can print out the fence and put it in the background. That's totally fine. However, behind the fence, there's this like a place where the fans can go and buy their burgers or something like that. It's called the patio.
Okay.
I cannot find a photo of the patio, the front of the place that says the patio that I can then put in the background behind the fence. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to details. I need to find a good photo of the patio name so I can then do my Photoshop magic and do the fence and then give him this beautiful piece of work that's coming out. But it's an Alex Gordon wall catch, and it's gonna be pretty cool. I'll definitely be showing it on the Kansas City pages and on the pages and stuff like that, so you guys can kind of like see how good it is. And that's what I like about customs in baseball. We often say the best sport in the world. Well, it creates memories. Even if the team lost, you can't forget catches like that. You can't forget moments like that. You
Yeah.
can't forget the history of the game. And you got, all these Negro League connections and all these different sets that you have because, again, their history. It's part of the game. And
Yep.
even the Sandlot set that you have, it's part of our head. It's part of our history because every single kid has got to see the Sandlot game, a movie. And every
100%.
time it's on the TV, we watch it.
Yep.
No matter where it's at, we watch it. So, it's wonderful, man. And I really want to thank you personally. And I'm sure that Jack agrees with me on this, for coming on and telling us about the hobby and how the hobby should be and the collecting and the chasing the grail and the last one and all the great moments that you gather going to the bobblehead games with your kids and all that stuff. It's just great, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad, like I said, glad to be here. Glad we could finally make it where I know we've talked about it several times, but
Definitely.
just matching schedules, it finally worked. So
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I learned a lot, and I'm gonna go make a list now of all the teams and all of the equipment managers, the groundskeepers, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
making some phone calls in the morning. So I gotta beat everybody before this gets posted out.
before you publish it, go live.
Don't forget about the guy that scans your credit card when you're paying $40 for parking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
him
He's
too.
the ultimate
Email
hookup.
that guy too.
All right, sounds good, Corey.
Catch a guy taking the trash out and say, hey,
What do you have on your desk?
right. Yes.
All right, sounds good. Corey, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it again. Jack, do we have anything else other than, hey, we're going to be making more shows and hopefully more often than before now that we're finding the time. We're definitely going to bring you guys more episodes.
Yep, we got some ideas coming, and grab that 5K package, and that's about it. That's all I got.
There you go. Corey, thank you. Guys, have a good night and enjoy your time, enjoy your weekend, and enjoy baseball.
All right. Take care, fellas.